Of course it still works. Howdy folks, how are y'all doing? My name is Reese, and this is my Game Boy Color. There are many like it, but this one is mine. I paid for this myself way back in the 1990s using my $3 a week allowance. I saved it up for a long time, because after playing a Game Boy for the first time at my cousin's birthday, in fact, that might be the first time I ever became aware that Game Boys existed, I knew that I wanted one. I thought they were very cool. I think his was purple. I seem to remember it had this monstrous case on it because his parents didn't want him to wreck it. He was quite a bit younger than me. But as soon as he opened it, his dad, took it and was like, hey, let me set it up. He set it up. He was opening other presents, so he handed it to me. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't remember what I played on it. We're talking about events that happened over 20 years ago now. So I don't remember very clearly. I just remember the impact. Because at that point in my life, video games were things that I either played on the computer, which was big and bulky and in the corner of the living room and could not go in the car with me, or that I watched my sister play at her friend's house, and they didn't let me play. I was bullied. But yeah, my parents were really good about teaching me to be frugal and save my money, so I already had a bit saved up and saved up a little bit more, went to Walmart, looking for a red Game Boy. This was all they had, and my mom, being a sage woman, said, don't settle on that. Wait till next week, we'll go to Beaumont, and they'll have all the ones you could possibly imagine at the Toys R Us. You could pick out the exact one you want. And I said, but Mom, no, I really do want yellow. I didn't. I just wanted a Game Boy. I wanted the red one. I probably should have waited for the red one. There were a couple of times in my youth I regretted getting the yellow one, but looking back on it, I wouldn't go back and change that decision. This is now an iconic part of my childhood, and I'm glad that I got it. I've got all of my games here. I didn't collect a lot of games for the Game Boy growing up. I have a little bit of a story for each one, though. I also have a box, and inside of this box, I bought cases for my Game Boy games, because these came in cardboard, and I threw all that away, because as a child, I never thought that I would be a grown man with shelves full of video games, and that I would want that cardboard. Clearly, if I could go back, I would change that, but there are all these different websites online that sell cases for video games, and there's a ton of different options. You can get some that are like cassette tapes that have really nice printed artwork on them, but the games just kind of flop around inside, or I found a few different websites that sell. They might be modified, they might be like produced to look like DS cases that actually have the cutouts to hold your Game Boy, your Game Boy Color, and your Game Boy Advance games. Well, Game Boy Advance games you can just use a regular DS case for, but I thought that was cool, and there's a ton of different options. You can just Google it. I'm not even going to link to any store in particular. I think these were from literally just game cases. Like, just Google that, but like Google Game Boy Color game cases, you'll find some. But I thought what we would do is we would unbox this, and as we went through them, I would tell you a bit about each game, because each game has a bit of a story, and is a history from my life, and we'd just have a look at the cases. Put your faith in what you most believe in. Two worlds, one family. One of the games that I had was Tarzan, and ever since I pulled it off the shelf, that's all that has been on my mind. So I picked up a few cases that weren't for the Game Boy Color, and we might go over those, but I do want to start with the Game Boy Color cases, and I'm going to do these in the order of the games that I got, and I see the first case right here. Now, where I ordered them from, you had an option, I think it was clear cases or black cases. I think that was the options. I went black for no real reason, and someday I might change my mind and sell all these on eBay and go for clear cases. The prints look fantastic, and I'm not really in the best situation to show you that, but if you were worried they would just look like flat pieces of paper with like low quality inkjet printer, they don't. They look good. They're very vibrant. They've got a decent amount of shine to them. I think these look really good. And you've got your box art from the front and the back of, I assume, the original cardboard, but reformatted to fit what is really, it does just look like a DS case. And on the inside, custom game cases. I guess that's the website I got mine from. And yeah, look at that. Cut out to hold my very first Game Boy game, which was Lego Stunt Rally. Now, I don't like car games. I don't like race games, really. I've owned a surprising number of them and had a ton of fun with them, but It's just not my main sort of draw when it comes to games, even though it's the first thing I ever bought for my Game Boy. Wow, that fits in there nicely. There you go. Look at that. If I remember correctly, and I'm going to have footage of the game, so I will have to replay the game in order to get that footage. Some sort of horrible, ungodly amalgamation of the Hamburglar and Grimace has taken you to an island where you have to do these races, but the races they're so easy. You don't have to steer, you just hold down one button to go, and you let go of that button when you get close to turns so you don't fly off the map, and that's it. And I think there's 4 different races, because the island is it's like the island of Matanui. It's set up in 4 different biomes, and I think there's a track editor. It's okay. I'll tell you what really drew this to me, though, and the reason that this is the game I picked up with my Game Boy was 100% just Lego. I loved Lego as a kid. I still love Lego as an adult, and that's all it took. I just saw Lego, I jumped at it. It's a fine game. I'm looking forward to trying it again, but this is actually not one that I played a lot after I got my second game. Now, I should note, I didn't have a lot of games on the Game Boy Color, so I played a lot of this game until I got my second game, and then I didn't really go back to this one. One interesting thing to note, though, I was looking at these earlier. This is the only game that I have that has a battery. You can see it right there. So it'll do saves. This is all read-only memory in these games. So any save data can only be stored if you have a battery on the cartridge. Every other game I have just has I'm giving them a second look here to make sure. They just give you codes that you type in after you beat a certain level so you can get back to that level or that section of levels. I'm actually going to plug this one in and turn it on. Yeah, back in the day, these didn't have lights in them. People mod these now, which is weird to think about. You can get a modded Game Boy Color with a full backlit display. Oh, look, there he is! There's the true nightmare right there. Yeah, it's Mr. X. Oh my gosh, is that Elon Musk? It all makes sense now. But good lord, how did I cannot I forgot how awful this screen is. It is absolutely terrible. Oh, it is. You literally, if you don't have it catching the light just right, you can't. Oh, look. Oh, that's Inception right there. That's nuts. You can't see anything. That's not it being broken. That's just the way these are. What's interesting is this port on the side here, one of the first accessories I ever got, which I no longer have, obviously, but it was a little light that plugged in there, and it shone down onto the screen, so if you were in the car at night, you could kind of see it. And I got a lot of use out of that, but it drained your double A's, let me tell you. You burned through those quickly. Another mod that I got was this thing that clamped on. It was like a magnifying glass, so it made the screen look bigger. The 90s were wild, man! They were wild! But I had a lot of fun with this game. Looking back on it now, it was very simple, and not my favorite game that I ended up getting, but I don't think I would have had it any other way. In the same way that going back now, I still would have gotten the yellow Game Boy, I still would have picked up Lego Stunt Rally. The next 2 games I'm going to do as a pair, because I genuinely don't remember which one I got first. What I do remember about them is that I picked them up at, it may have been an EB Games, in the Beaumont Mall. Shout out to Beaumont, Texas. And the deal with these 2 games, and the reason I associate them with each other, is I'm pretty sure I got them almost back to back. I think I got this one, and then the next month this one, but it might have been the other way around. And each of them I only paid for half of. These games are $20 a piece, and each time I only had about 12 bucks. $3 a week times 4. So my dad volunteered with each of these games. He said, if you pay for half, I'll pay for the other half. And I remember after doing that the second time, I was like, this is a thing. We're going to do this more often. Every month we're going to come down and we're going to get another game like this. This is perfect. We never did it again. We just didn't go back to the mall after that, I don't think. But if I had to guess, I'd say I got Tarzan first, and then The Lion King. But both of these are great games. Tarzan is special because that's the first time I ever went to a movie in theaters twice. that never happened before this. And I remember thinking that was wild, and I didn't even know you could go see a movie more than once. Just the idea had never occurred to me, but I really liked that movie as a kid. And the game is great. You play as Tarzan most of the time. You also play as his ape friend, and I think it just switches between the two. But you just kind of play through the game. It's these 2D levels. As I remember it, you collect bananas, and once you have a certain amount of bananas collected, you then go find Tarzan's friend, who I can't remember the name of. We'll just call them Rosie Monkey. But if you're playing as Rosie Monkey, you have to go find Tarzan. And that's basically every level. You run around until you have enough bananas to then go find your friend. And it's like, on to the next game. This is, I remember, probably the first time I ever figured out what the codes between levels meant, because I was a dumb child. But I realized, I was like, oh, if I want to replay this level, I can type in this code. And so I had a little book that I carried around with me along with a pen, and in between every level I would write the code down. And if I remember correctly, in this game they're like little symbols, but I would write those down, so I was like, if I die or whatever, if I run out of lives, I can get right back to this moment. Pretty cool. That's Tarzan. Lion King is basically the same thing. Not much different. I wanted this one because my friend had an old PC that had that old Lion King game on it. This is almost the same thing. That's what I was hoping it would be. I was like, hopefully this is the same as the PC version. And normally, it's not the case, especially back then, for handheld versions to be the same game. This one was basically the same. It's not the exact same levels, but it's the exact same style. You know, much like Tarzan, it's a platformer. This one is much more linear in the style of, like, let's say a Mario. You start in one place, you end in another. With this, though, lots of verticality, which was pretty cool. You just kind of hop around, swipe at creatures, kill them. This game covers both movies, though, so Lion King 1 and Lion King 2, which is neat. I remember finishing Lion King, the first time I beat the Lion King on here, and realizing, oh, the game's not over. Oh, I'm doing Simba's Pride now. That was pretty cool. I played this one a ton. I probably played this one more than Tarzan, but what I remember about these two is playing them back to back, and both being very similar with the controls, but I believe Lion King, maybe you moved a bit faster, or you moved a bit faster in Tarzan. One of the two, all I remember is that when I switched between them, every time I was like, oh, the speed is different, I've got to remember this, and it took like 5 or 10 whole minutes, and every time I was like, oh, I need to stop playing these games back to back, but I kept doing it because I owned at that point 3 games, and I wasn't turning this one back on. I don't think this is a bad game. To be clear, it's just, I like these other two better. I don't remember what year Simba's Pride came out. It could have been late 90s, it could have been early 2000s, but one that is definitively in the 2000s. It's the Shrek game. This is Shrek Fairytale Freakdown. I went to go see Shrek, and this is actually the first movie my brother ever saw in theaters. He was born like a couple of years before this movie came out. Maybe a year before. Did this movie come out in, what, 2000, 2001? He was a baby in the theater. He was asleep the whole time. But we took my sister and her then boyfriend to Dallas, Texas to see a George Strait concert. So my dad and my uncle went with them to the concert. And then me and my mom and my brother and my aunt went to see Shrek. And this movie was incredible. I had no interest in seeing it. I remember the trailers came out and it just didn't look very intriguing to me. But I remember, like, from the moment the movie starts, it really was a different kind of fairy tale movie. And so, obviously, I needed to get the game. Now, the game is a 2D fighter in the vein of a Smash Brothers or a Street Fighter or one of those greats, you know, but kind of terrible. I think that the Angry Video Game Nerd did a video that featured this game not that long ago. Say what you will about James and the quality of that channel. It was a pretty good view of this game if you're interested. Oh boy, this is not a good game, but you know what? I had fun with it as a kid. I think that it's easy to look back on a game now and say that it's not good, you know, because I've played better games. But as a kid at the time, it was a lot of fun. It's not terrible. It's not a good game, but it's not terrible either. I also feel like It must be the lighting in here. I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea about these. They kind of look a little bit washed out on camera, or a little bit dark, and I think that's just because I have poor lighting and the camera's not set up well, but they look great to me. This looks really good. So, that's the Shrek one. I love Stuart Little. That's all I have to say about this. This is like, I think it's level-based, kind of isometric top-down sort of situation. I did not play this one a lot. This is one of the ones I got later on in my Game Boy Color life. I liked the Stuart Little movie. It's called The Journey Home. It could be based on both films or just the first one. It has the little car in it. I remember that. That's kind of all I remember. So, this one didn't stand out in my memories. These frames on the back I have no memory of. I can't remember any of that. I know that I played this game, and I know that I beat it a couple of times. Oh, includes sneak peek of Stuart Little 2 movie. What does that mean on a Game Boy Color? Oh boy. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the Stuart Little soundtrack. Oh, that's a smelly sock. This game sucks. That's probably why I have no memories of playing it. I think there's a bit where you're driving around at night in the car. Vaguely, I remember that. I feel like I really peaked with Lion King and Tarzan, though. That's Stuart Little. It exists. See, the problem is, as a kid, at least for me, there was no one older than me who played a lot of games who could, like, sort of nurture my young gaming self and point me in the right direction for what was a good game. I just had to go for licenses I recognized, which is why at some point, once I got into the PS2 generation, I just bought Star Wars games, and I didn't bother with anything else. Anyway, Land Before Time. You thought I was going to pull a Star Wars game out of there, didn't you? No. This is the final game that I got for Game Boy Color. Shortly after this, I picked up a Game Boy Advance SP, which was cool because it had... Mine didn't have the backlit screen. Mine had the frontlit screen, but it had a light on it, and that's what was magical. In fact, I have a memory of walking into a GameStop and asking the man behind the counter, what is the difference between an Advance and an SP besides the fact that one flips? And he goes, let me show you the most important difference. And he fidgets around with some stuff back there, and he comes up and he hands me a GBA, and he says, okay, so you see that screen? I was like, yeah. And he flipped the SP open, and it illuminated. He goes, see this one? And I was like, I know what I'm buying. And I did. I came back several months later, I think. In fact, that GameStop had changed locations as I remember it. And I went in and I bought a used SP, which I continued to play all my Game Boy Color games on, but at that point I was pretty much buying GBA games. And I also had a home console, so the age of this being my only dedicated gaming device were kind of ended by then. But I did still enjoy, I mean, playing Game Boy games in the car was still like the best way to pass the time. Aside from the portable DVD player, which was terrible, but cool at the time, real lifesaver, but gosh, dealing with DVDs in a car, jumping up and down and start skipping the movie, that was awful. I'm glad that was a brief period of time before we got into the age of iPods, and then eventually everyone had an iPhone or an iPad they could watch movies on, but what a rough period. What a rough period. This game, I remember this game being tough as nails. I remember not being able to finish this game. I ended up going back to this game in my maybe early to mid-teens, with a lot of games that I'd grown up with as a kid and thinking, wow, these are hard. And I remember plugging it in and being like, oh no, I was just dumb. So many of the games that I thought were hard as a kid was just me not being smart. And this was definitely one of those. But this is, again, 2D platformer. You play as the different dinosaurs. You can whip your tail at the bad guys, but the collision mechanics aren't great. So sometimes you can definitely hit them with your tail, but they still hit you somehow, and it's very confusing. And the actual platforming's not great. It's not super satisfying. It's not like a Mario where when you miss a jump, you know, like, dang it, I messed up. With this game, you miss a jump and you're like, was that me? Or I'm pretty sure the character hit the ledge. Where's the physics here? You know, where's the geometry? How does this work? I did eventually go back and finish it, though. This one's apparently rated E for everyone, which is good to know. But with that, that is my Game Boy Color collection. I wanted to get some of these for all my Game Boy Advance games as well, but they're about $6 a piece. Kind of depends on where you buy them. You can find them for less, you can find them for more. I think that everyone who makes them does, like, they're not all just like sourcing them from the same place. You could tell these were custom boxes. They had the logo on them, but they're all very similar products, and I think they all get their box art from the same website. I think I could be wrong. I think there's a website that like specializes in making the box art that you can print out for yourself. And I think all they do is they do much, again, I could be wrong. I don't know. They might make their own box art, but what they do is they make much higher quality prints than I could possibly make at home. That did land on the Game Boy. Like, that's just, I can't print that out. I don't even have a color printer. I've got a black and white laser printer because I realized when I moved out of my parents' house, the only thing I'll ever need to print is like the occasional paper with black ink. I don't need to be printing out no colors. So I couldn't even make these if I tried. These look fantastic, but there is one more. I bought a new Game Boy Color game. New, I bought it used, obviously, but it's inside of here. It's a game that I knew existed, but I didn't know that it had a special feature that I would like to discuss with all of you. I had no clue that this was a thing, and once I found out, I was surprised to see that it was only 20 bucks on eBay. I picked it up immediately. This is why what I said earlier about only buying Star Wars games would have made such a better segue for now, because it's Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. And you might notice that this is a really big cartridge, and that's because this has rumble built in, and you can put a battery in there. The hardest thing to find is one of these with the door for the battery compartment. So I don't know if this thing's even gonna work. Oh, it's a AAA. I have those, hold on. This is ridiculous. Okay. AAA loaded. So you might be trying to figure out, like, Reese, you're a fan of Star Wars, you bought all the Star Wars games on your other consoles. How did you not have Racer on the Game Boy Color? Does that, like, wow, that, like, barely, that doesn't, there we go. That does not fit. If you're wondering why I didn't have this already, it's because I bought Racer on the PC. That was the only sort of home console option I had. And I ended up picking it up at a Walmart of all places, CD-ROM, played the heck out of it, but I didn't feel like I needed it on the Game Boy. But that was before I knew that it had rumble, so naturally I'm going to go ahead and try that. Oh my gosh, it's a... Oh! I don't know how to convey this to you, but the whole thing just rumbled. That is nuts. Wait, go back. That's amazing! That is fantastic! Oh, I should have gotten this as a kid! Why did I get Fairytale Freakdown when I could have gotten this? What was I doing? You might think that I'm trying and failing to show you the screen right now, but I'm trying and failing to just see the screen myself. I thought about modifying this with like a full color screen. They make one that's also a bit bigger. But I don't want to actually ruin my Game Boy. Like, I want to keep this in pristine condition. But I might pick up a second Game Boy and mod it, because I think that would be cool to have. I can emulate these, but it's fun to have original games and original hardware. Maybe not always convenient, but if you just want to like play in the comfort of your own home and kind of show to friends and stuff. Okay, the rumble is fantastic. It's very subtle. I thought it would just be like the whole thing warbling. Not that it would be super powerful, but that would be like, I don't know, crunchy. This 20-year-old cartridge, though, this over 20-year-old cartridge, it's still working well, and it's very subtle, and I really like it. And also, I lost. That's a shame. But that's fun. So, the way that I found out about this game, and I will not be storing it with the battery inside, because... you know, that's just asking for trouble. Plus, this is one of my rechargeables. I want to hold on to that. But the reason I found out about this is because as I was, you know, browsing the website, finding all the games, and they have pretty much all the games, and the games they don't have, they have little... they're in the system, and they say, yeah, we'll have this soon, which is cool. While I was browsing them, I was like, were there any Star Wars games in the Game Boy Color? And instead of simply Googling that, I just typed in Star Wars on the Case website, and this chunky boy came up. If you're wondering why it's so thick, it's because it has to accommodate the bulge. Now, I don't think it needs to be double thick to fit the bulge, but this is the decision they made. Far be it from me to argue with them. That is such a unit of a case. My gosh. Just for reference, let me grab another racing game here. We got Stunt Rally. Is it actually double the thickness? I think it might be a bit more than double the thickness. Hold on a minute. Let's bring in the Lion King here. Oh my gosh, it is! Alright, let's grab, we'll do Shrek Fairytale Freakdown. Oh my gosh, it is... It's almost 3 games thick, and there's no reason for it that I can tell. I'm pretty sure it would fit in just a slightly thicker case. I don't know why it's 3 times as thick. I'm so glad that it is. I mean, it definitely doesn't need to be that thick, but I'm glad that it is, because that's a story there. Like, did that game like launch on 6 different cartridges? What's the story there? Like, no, I'm just very proud of it. So there is my Game Boy Color library, the 6 games I had in my youth, and my most recent Game Boy Color pickup. My first Game Boy Color game in 20 years, just about, give or take. Actually, maybe spot on. There it is, and what a collection it is. My original Game Boy Color that I have now decided I will not mod. I will keep it in pristine condition, but I might get one to mod myself, because I think that would be fun, or just maybe someone else has already modded one. If you're curious about what else I got, I'll go ahead and show you, because they make these for all kinds of systems. So I bought a used NES in the early 2000s off of eBay, and I picked up, I think, all the Mario games, but for some reason when I went to order these, I could only find 2 of them. I know that I have others, but the 2 that I could find on my shelf, I have to go back to my parents' house and look, was, I have the triple pack of Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and World Class Track Meet. So I got these with the clear case. Again, they also have these in the dark cases for whatever reason. I think the dark case might look better because I went with the black banner for whatever reason. I think they also come in red. They might be clear cases no matter what, but you can get this in red and black. I can't remember off the top of my head. Please bear with me because I don't recall. But again, I might change my mind on these later. So I found this, and I found Mario Brothers 2. But then also, before this arrived, after I had ordered, I found my Mario Brothers 3 case. I have original Mario Brothers somewhere too, so I have to pick up some more of those. But I just picked up these 2 for now, and like those, like the look of them. They're large, but they're big cartridges. I also got a case for the only Nintendo 64 game that I own. Now the thing with these is that the boxes for N64 games were oriented like so. But you can still put them up on a shelf like this. And there's a couple of different box art options. But yeah, Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue is the only N64 game I own because I never owned an N64. And that's a video for another day because I wanted one. Oh, I wanted one, but I didn't get one. I got something else instead. I got something else instead. But I picked this up for the N64 because it's one of my favorite games of all time. And I kind of wanted to own a version of the game on every system it came out on. Still trying to find a Dreamcast copy with the case. But I have it on PC and PlayStation and N64. Love this game. And just really wanted to get a case for it. And these look good. Oh yeah. Whoa, what's that up there for? I have no idea. I've never owned an N64. What is that? Is that like a save card or something? I don't know. I never had one. There you go. So again, these guys aren't a sponsor or anything. Just Google Game Cases. I think the logo for their website was in one of these boxes a moment ago. But again, you can Google these. You can see all the different websites and check prices between them. But that's my haul. Pretty proud of it. Pretty pleased with it. I can't say proud of it. You know, I didn't make it. I just bought it. But I mean, I'm proud of my Game Boy collection. I think that I picked a bunch of winners as a kid. I'm glad the Game Boy's still in good shape. I dropped this in the water once on a hunting trip, and it's fine. It was in a case. I don't think it actually got wet, but this is taking a beating, and it's still kicking. It's still got that classic signature. That brings back nostalgic memories. Well, hey, if you folks enjoyed this, I'm glad to hear it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.